Welcome to Gift of Life, the Organ Transplant Podcast. These are the stories of those who have received, given, and who are waiting for the gift of life, organ transplantation. Now here's your host and heart and kidney recipient, BJ Odom.
Welcome to Gift of Life, the Organ Transplant Podcast, a place where we journey through the incredible world of organ transplantation. I'm your host, BJ Odom. Each week, we uncover inspiring stories and meet extraordinary individuals who are connected to the world of transplants. Remember to support us by leaving that 5-star review and subscribing on your preferred podcast platform. And don't forget to join us on Facebook, Gift of Life, the Organ Transplant Podcast. And as always, if you have an organ transplant story you'd like to share, please reach out to us. Our email, giftoflifepodcast@gmail.com. We're on episode 22 this week. Our guest this week, Alex Berrios. He's here to share his experience with high antibody levels, a common issue faced by many individuals. High antibody levels can present challenges in finding a comparable organ donor, resulting in a prolonged wait for a transplant, as seen in Alex's case. Currently participating in a clinical trial at the Transplant Institute at NYU. Alex will enlighten us about the study and his personal journey towards his second transplant. Alex, could you just kindly start out by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Good afternoon. My name is Alex Berrios. I am 40 years old. I reside in Louisville, Kentucky. I have 2 kiddos. I have a 13-year-old daughter and a 9-year-old son. They are a lot of my life. I'm currently actually also looking for a second kidney transplant. I'm actively on dialysis, doing in-center dialysis 3 days a week. And I'm also working and trying to do a clinical trial to help lower my antibodies to increase my chances of finding a match for a second kidney transplant. I also work full time, so my hands are pretty full between my 2 kiddos and work and dialysis.
Wow, that would keep you busy. I had a couple kids myself. Of course, now I'm older, but was going through some of my problems also while my children were younger. So let's just start with your story. You find out you have kidney disease because you're going for your second transplant, if I'm right, correct?
Yes, that is correct. Yeah. So my story starts in my 20s. I was, just kind of coming. I had just recently finished I graduated from college, and I took a year after college just to kind of do some exploring. And I had the chance to go to the Grand Canyon for a year. So I hiked the Grand Canyon on the South Rim for a year, and then moved and found a woman who was from Kentucky, and I followed her back. And then shortly after moving to Kentucky, within probably 3 to 4 months of being here in Kentucky, I got sick, what I thought was food poisoning. And indeed, it was not just food poisoning. It was a really bad infection hurting my kidney. And I say kidney because I found out with this sickness, with this infection, I only was born with 1 kidney. Most of us are born with 2. I was born with 1 and found this out kind of unbeknownst to me, and it was failing miserably and had to go on dialysis pretty immediately. Within a couple of weeks after getting the diagnosis of the infection that was causing the kidney to fail. It wasn't going to last very long, so they did make some pretty quick changes. So I crashed into dialysis. This was in 2006. So I started dialysis, did in-center, and did that for 18 months, and was fortunate enough to receive a living donor from a lady I went to church with here in town in Louisville, and it was a blessing, and it lasted for 13 good years. And during COVID, because I don't think it was because I got COVID, but because COVID was such a big pandemic in 2020, I couldn't get to see my doctors as often as I would have liked to, and that happened to be the time my kidney started failing again. My transplanted kidney started failing. So in July of 2020, it eventually failed. I had to go back onto dialysis, but this time around, I wanted to try a different modality. So I tried the home one, which is called peritoneal dialysis. And I did that for about a year and found that wasn't really a good fit for me and my lifestyle with, again, 2 young children, at the time, and I was still young, but at the time younger. And this kind of like new to just having all the medical equipment around me, and it just wasn't a good fit for me to do PD. And so I went back to in-center dialysis after a year and a half, and presently still back on in-center hemodialysis, and have been listed with two different centers at the time. I was listed with the University of Kentucky and the University of Cincinnati. And they were working me up, and it all was working fine. But over the last almost 4 years, I've received no calls or offers for any kidneys, deceased or living, from anybody, from anywhere. No calls, like nothing at all. So I kind of started to kind of like figure out, what am I going to do? And so I've been very connected in the kidney space, working in different capacities, working as a patient advocate and educating patients on kidney disease and understanding what it means to have, the different modalities of dialysis, and what it means to, what kind of levels in the lab you should look for when you're at your doctor's office, those kinds of things. And so while I was transplanted, I had the opportunity to do some volunteering and some working, and made lots of connections, and I'm very resourceful with meeting different people. And so I there was an organization called the National Kidney Registry that is based in Connecticut. And they help find people who are hard to match, like myself, find donors, or find ways to find those matches. And so I was speaking with a gentleman there at the NKR maybe about a year ago now. And he said, if you can get to either Cedars-Sinai in Los Angeles or to NYU in New York, those two hospitals are going to be your best bet, and kind of looking at clinical trials to see if we can bring those antibodies down to increase your chances of getting a kidney. Because once I guess I should back up. When my kidney failed in 2020, it caused me to have all these antibodies that make it that much harder to find me a second match. And so that's also why I've not been able to find a match, is because I'm just difficult to match, because of those antibodies would take anybody's normal blood work. With my blood work, it would completely fail. It would just basically say, yeah, this isn't going to work. My body would recognize it as a foreign invader, and would, in essence, could kill me, or the kidney wouldn't take, and it'd be a waste of surgery. So if they can bring down the antibodies, that's the increase. And that's where NYU comes in. And I went to NYU over the summer, was at a part of a clinical trial for about 5 or 6 weeks, where I went and traveled to them and did an infusion for, I want to say it was 4 straight weeks, for like 2 days in a row each week. They'd do an infusion, they would observe me, make sure nothing was happening, and then I'd go home and then come back a week later. I did that 4 times. And then now, currently, presently, I have a nurse coming out to my home here locally, here in Kentucky, for the next 3 months until January, to just take my blood. And then in this January, we should know if the clinical trial worked and if the antibodies came down.
Well, let's hope it does.
That's kind of where I am presently. Yeah, let's hope so. Yeah.
A friend of ours here at the podcast, Melissa Tuff, actually got us in contact with each other, because she's going through the same type of ordeal. Now, she says hers is, from obviously the first kidney, and then a lot of blood transfusions because of other things that happened to her life. Were you also had many blood transfusions, or where did these antibodies come from?
Yeah, so my antibodies come from what I've understood, we all have antibodies generally. Now, if you've had an organ transplant, if you're a woman and you've been pregnant, or you've had a blood transfusion, those are the 3 top things that make those antibodies more elevated, or happen to be created more in your body for whatever reason. Because I've had a blood transfusion when I was a child, and I've had an organ transplant already, I was already, 2 strikes against me that my antibodies were going to come up and be elevated as they are. And so there's what they call a CPRA, panel reactive antibody number, that we kind of look at in the world of kidney donation, and like a number 0 to 100. And mine is at 100%, which means that like the likelihood of me finding a kidney in a match, like a needle in a haystack, So if they can get that number down to 99 or 98, it can do a world of difference in finding me a match somewhere in the world, somewhere in the country that could match me. And it would suffice, and I'd be able to take the kidney and would be on my way.
Now, let me ask you this. Have they ever tried anything called like plasmapheresis or photopheresis on you?
They have. When my kidney was failing, my transplanted kidney was failing, they gave me a little bit of what they call IVIG, and that helped a little bit, but not completely, with my rejection. So I don't know if it would help necessarily with my case, currently with my plasmapheresis, because I don't know if keeping me with the plasmapheresis, if there's a guarantee that they do the plasmapheresis, that those antibodies don't just jump right back up. Like, it may make it come down for a little while, but there's no guarantee that it comes right back up. So there's no guarantee that there's going to be a kidney in time. So it's all about kind of a balancing act of like, all right, well, if you do the plasmapheresis, is there a kidney in waiting for him to get, versus just doing it kind of blanketly and then like waiting 6 weeks and waiting for a call and nobody comes. And then I just did it for no reason. So that's what I've heard. That's why I can't really there's not really anybody who I've had. Like I have what they call with the National Kidney Registry called a voucher. So somebody has donated on my behalf already about over a year ago, and he donated to a friend, or he donated and basically put my name on his kidney, even though his kidney went to physically somebody else in another state. I have the kidney, like I have a voucher that says, okay, now that we have the voucher, the next one that should come up, I should be next in line to getting it. But it's still just that much harder to find me a match because of those antibodies. So that's why I'm doing this trial. And
Now, see, I'm very curious in this one myself, because I had a heart transplant in 2003. And of course, the drugs caused me to then have a kidney transplant in 2015. Now, luckily, and here's why I have the questions now, because of the way my history and what I know is going on with me. I've had donor specific, whatever that is, because I'm not a doctor, and a lot of this stuff just goes out the window for me.
Yeah,
but I have donor specific antibodies, and they've been doing the plasmapheresis and the photopheresis on me, trying to get those donor specific antibodies down. But like you said, as soon as they get them down at all, they fly right back up. And now I'm thinking, gosh, I got these donor specific antibodies. I've had a kidney transplant. I'm doomed if I ever need another organ. This kind of scares me too, because it's an unusual, not an unusual, maybe because, like I said, I know another person that's going through the same thing you. So it might be, just maybe it occurs more than I know.
Right. It definitely is out there more than we think. And it's funny. I don't know many people. Like, I mean, you're the first person I met who's had a heart and a kidney transplant. Like, most of the people I've worked with in the kidney space are all mainly kidney, and some people with pancreases, who need a kidney panc. And so there's always a lot out there to know and to learn about with transplantation and just the future of where it's going. And I'm sure you've read about and learned about the xenotransplantation with looking at pig kidneys, and if that's a possibility. There's always there's a lot out there, and I think it's very interesting.
Now, I know that back when I needed my kidney, I looked into it, but now the more that I've learned about it, because I got the kidney, so I kind of quit looking. But they were then talking about a kidney they would insert in you that would work just like your kidney, and
it's like almost almost like a pacemaker, but for a kidney, like a natural kidney, like the size of a kidney, like a Coke can kidney,
like just something.
An artificial.
Yeah, like an artificial kidney. But now I'm learning that the more research that I've found on that, because I was talking to Melissa about this actually, and she said, "Oh, you carry around like this gigantic machine, even when you have that kidney." And I guess I envisioned in my mind it could be like a pacemaker inserted inside you. Too. But now it sounds like it's a whole lot more involved. So
wow, I don't think I knew that. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, news to me. I learned was under the assumption it was what you said. Like it was like a pacemaker, the size of a Coke can, goes into your, goes in and into where your kidneys would be normally, lower back, whatever. And it would work that way. I didn't know you had to have a machine. I had no idea. I had no clue.
Well, hopefully what I think and what you think is correct. And because I don't know, maybe, Melissa was looking into something else, but have you've done studies on that, or have you, not really studies, but have you looked into things like that?
I've looked, I mean, I've kind of definitely have dabbled and looked into what is out there in regards to like, not only just transplantation, but like wearable kidney, like wearable dialysis. I was working on a project a little over a year ago with Drexel University that was working on trying to make a wearable dialysis where it's portable. So like you can walk around and like do dialysis almost like a backpack, and or the kind that like, so for folks who are diabetic who have like the Dexcom like on their arm, like there'd be a way to create a dialysis machine, like sort of like where you put it on your arm, you kind of stick it on your arm and like it is able to dialyze that way. It's amazing some of the nanotechnology that's out there and some of the things that people are trying to create. Yeah.
Well, hats off to you, because I think, people like you and I that can do these studies and help, modern medicine along. I mean, like I said, haven't really been in any studies or asked to, but I know if I ever am, that's something I'll do. And I'm even the type of guy, and call me crazy if you want to, but when I was in the dialysis center, we have a new tech. They've really never stuck anybody before. What the heck? Bring them over here. I got to learn somewhere. So
yeah, it's true. You got to learn the human, right? Exactly. That's good. Yeah, no, there were so many, and that's funny you say that, because I worked when I was, while I was transplanted for 13 years. I attempted to work as a technician in a dialysis clinic because I wanted to kind of see what it was like. I wanted to be I'd been in the chair for, at the time before 18 months. When I had done it. I had crashed into it. I was in my 20s, and I did dialysis for those first 18 months, and then I got the transplant. So, fast forward maybe 6 or 7 years later, while having the transplant, I want to get back to the kidney community. The kidney community is underway. I talked to DaVita and asked them if they were hiring, and they were. And I applied and got it, but did not like the job at all. I did not like the work. Didn't feel very fulfilling. Like I just felt like it was just like a rat race. And all I was doing was putting patients on and off the machine and stringing them and all the things you had to do, and then a cannulation and sticking them. Like I was never a fan of cannulation and sticking needles in people's arms. And so when you got a new patient and you're a new tech, it doesn't bode well. When you got two nervous people, you got somebody with a needle wanting to stick them in the arm, the person who's never been stuck before. But in your case, it sounds like you were the one who's like, "Here, come on, stick me, give me a shot."
Yeah, I'd been the guy saying, "Hey, come on, Alex, let me, let me break you in."
That's good, right? Exactly, yeah. But no, I think there's a lot out there. And I think that with what Melissa's been talking about and what you're doing with this podcast and this kind of reach and having this kind of these kind of conversations, they go a long way, I think, in bringing education to the forefront of the people and understanding, like, organ donation, kidney disease, and this just in transplantation as a whole. Like, there's a lot of myths out there that we can kind of help break. We can help kind of break that myth and say, look, this is what we did. This is what it's like for us as patients. This is what we have gone through, and what we go through, every day with our medicines, and what we go through with dialysis, and we go through with, side effects of the medications, both on dialysis and transplant. Like, I've been transplanted for 13 years. So I definitely remember being on all those medications and dealing with some of the side effects of, like, I had to get Solomedrol at one point, some steroids at one point, and I got really bad hiccups from the Solomedrol. It was the weirdest side effect I've ever had. Like, I would take steroids to help. It was the Solomedrol was to help, I think, with like a mild rejection episode, maybe like year 9. I was having some slight rejection, and they didn't do plasmapheresis. They just gave me Solomedrol, some steroids, and it brought it down. It was fine. But the side effect was complete and uncontrollable hiccups for like a day and a half. Like, I would just be like sitting there, all of a sudden be hiccuping. It was the most annoying side effect I've ever had in my life, have hiccups. But Oh yeah.
Well, as you've went along on your journey, and of course, you are the type of person that likes to look for things and find things and do some, the trials. Have you actually been researching or looking into anything else that's new on the horizon that you'd like to talk about?
Right now, as I look at the trials, I mean, I think, I'm always intrigued to see, and I kind of alluded to it earlier with the pig transplant, the xenotransplantation, and where that's headed with human trials. I mean, I know we're a little away from that, and we've had a couple people in the world who've received pig transplants and then didn't last very long. They end up passing away after a month or 2 weeks or so. And so I'm intrigued to see where that's going and what that can mean in the future. There's also, the conversation about not just clinical trials, but like the conversation about kidney donors and like compensation. There's something I was hearing about recently, and whether or not like folks should get like a tax credit for becoming organ donors or living donors because we're so, our wait list is so long, there's not enough donors out there that if we give them an incentive to donate, would they do it? But then it's like, there's what's the moral issue there of like, of that. And I'm still like wrap my head around it. Like I as somebody who needs a kidney, if somebody was to give somebody in my family $50,000 for over 5 years for a tax credit to become an organ donor, I wouldn't, to give me a kidney, I mean, to then better my life, that to be selfish, maybe I would love that, but I can understand why people wouldn't want it to either. Like there's like something to be said about like the altruism that goes away with that anymore, not when there's a financial dollar bill behind it. What are your thoughts on that?
I like where you're saying you're not actually, because you're not actually, well, you are, but you're not. If it was like some kind of tax credit, I think that would be amazing. But I can see if they start, just like, the NFL or anything else, being paid to do something like that, then all of a sudden, well, yeah, I'll do it, but you give me, 3 million or 8 million, then I'd be more than happy to do it. And then I think you would open Pandora's door where people say, well, heck, I'm not going to, I'm not going to donate a kidney now until I can get about, 8 mil out of it.
Exactly. Sure. Exactly. There's a whole issue of like, exploiting the poorer folks too, who need the money, right? Who are like, well, okay, if I'm poor and I can give a kidney and I can get some money, and that can, there's some exploitation there too. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of, I'm still wrapping my head around like what I feel about it. It's hard. It's a tough one. It's like, I think it could be good in some respect, but there have to be certain guidelines and certain protocols in place, I think, to make it really, really very, really stringent and strict, in my opinion. But it's interesting.
Well, I have you here today. I noticed you mentioned that too. And that's, I think, very important for all of us people that have received organs and the gift of life to always, when we get a chance, to talk about the myths, because they are flooded out there. And a lot of people are like, well, I'm not going to give a kidney because if I do, the doctor's not going to make me better. They're going to want me to die so I can give Henry my kidney. And just go into explaining some of the myths out there.
Yeah. So you hit it right on there, PJ. Yeah. That's the biggest one I hear a lot of people saying, I don't want to give a kidney because what if my child needs it? Or what if, like my doctor's not going to, a doctor's oath is to do no harm. So like, they're not going to forcefully make you die or hurt you to give you, so that they're going to make sure you live no matter what. Like they're not going to justify or jeopardize your health just so you get somebody's kidney. That's just not going to happen that way. And doctors, doctors will tell you that if you have that conversation. I think, that's a myth that's there. I think, the myth about, I think some folks feel like, I'm too old to donate. That's another thing too. Like, I think there's the ageism too. I think that you as long as you're healthy, you should be able to donate. Like, I think that's something that needs to be kind of talked about too, is that like, some folks are like, oh, I'm in my 70s or I'm in my 80s. I'm not going to donate, or I don't need, I'm like, if you're healthy enough, you should still, and you feel justified to want to donate. Don't feel like you need to be, don't feel like you're not going to, you shouldn't be given a chance to donate just because you think you're too old. That's what I'm saying.
And then I've also heard too, that if you do donate, let's say you're a living donor, like, the gentleman, or I don't know, may have been a female that donated to you, that, the donation is there. Now all they have to do is find a match for you, which is becoming difficult. But I've heard also if they donate and they do need a kidney down the road, they're going to be the top of the line. They're going to go straight to the top of the line. Now, I've heard that. Have you heard that also? Or
I have. Yes, PJ. Yeah, that is definitely true. That person, anybody who so I've had a living donor both when I got my first kidney transplant, and it was a lady I went to church with here in town, and she's still kicking and doing really well. Amazingly, she's hiking like all over the country. She's doing really well, and I still keep in touch with her. Even though when I had to call to tell her my kidney failed after 13 years, I was bawling, but I still keep in touch with her now, and she's doing well. And she, if her kidneys were if her one kidney was to fail, she would go right on the list to get a new one because she donated way back when. And then the person who donated on my behalf, same thing. He donated his kidney to somebody, went to somebody in Cleveland, Ohio, I think. If inadvertently his kidney failed in the next year or two, he has a clause or something in his record that says that he would then be opt to get a kidney immediately, or pretty quick on the list.
Yeah, awesome. That's a good thing to know too for people
that
might be interested in donation.
Mm-hmm.
And
exactly.
People, if you don't even know anybody, because I have heard people all of a sudden they wake up one day or in the middle of the night and go, I need to just go donate a kidney. I need to do that. So if you're one of those people, don't hesitate to, reach out to a hospital that does transplants and say,
exactly.
Hey, I am willing, I am ready. And of course you will go through a whole bunch of tests and a whole bunch of questions.
Yes, there's going to be lots of questions, lots of testing, and they're going to run you through the gamut. So if you're interested in becoming a living donor, just expect to know that you're going to sit and you're going to have a full body workup from brain to toes and everything in between. I want to make sure you're healthy enough to do that and be able to live on your, live independently without the one kidney, because it's considered elective, right? But so just know that if you are interested, to reach out to your local hospital and talk to your nurse, and they'll be able to kind of point you in the direction of where the closest transplant center would be, depending where you are.
Now back to your study. You say you're getting regular blood tests to see how the antibodies are doing. I know you said they have still another
2 more months.
Couple months?
3 more months. A few more months. I got the month of. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, how have they been up till now? Have they seen a steady decline? Are they staying the same, or how?
They won't tell me. They haven't said anything to me, so I'll know honestly in January. Is what I'm imagining will happen. They'll tell me in January whether or not it went down or not. I don't feel anything differently. I don't see anything. They don't tell me. I mean, this has only been the second month since I've been home, because I was doing, when I started this in June or July, I did all of July and the beginning of August. I was going back and forth to New York for the infusion itself. So they were doing blood work then, of course. And then the month of September, I had the nurse come out to my home and draw the blood. And she did that last week for the first time. And so she put it in her centrifuge, did all the blood and sent it off. I have no idea if it's actually come down or not. No one's told me anything yet. I do have a point of contact. I could ask them and they could tell me. They said they usually don't see anything after like the 3rd or 4th month. So it would be toward the end of the trial that I would find out if it did happen. In all honesty, my thinking, if I had to guess, is that if it worked, I'll get a phone call from a hospital saying, hey, we have a kidney for you, which would mean that, because I think the trial and the people who are doing the blood work, they see like that score, that PRA number, they see that score changing or not changing. So every month a hospital is always relating that particular number all over the country. So if somebody sees a match somewhere, if I get a phone call that there's a kidney for me, then good chances that then it did work and that I'm getting a kidney.
Awesome.
Or not, or I find out that I'll get there in January and they're like, well, it didn't work, and would it continue on, and maybe it'll continue to work. I'll find out more in January what will happen. If I don't think there'll be any follow up per se. It'll just be finished. Mm-hmm. It'll be 6 months and I'll be done.
Now, if you'd be willing, I'd really appreciate it. give us a call, and we'll do another podcast and
of course,
kind of learn as your story progresses. Like I told Melissa too, I'd like to definitely get you on, once everything happens and they find you that kidney. I'd like to celebrate it with you, and we'll get you on the podcast and continue your story here. Would much appreciate.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, BJ. Yeah. You're located in Florida, right?
Yeah, I'm like Melissa was down in the Southwest Florida area like me. That's where we met. And now I live up here, actually not too far from the Mouse House in Central Florida. In fact, the wife and the daughter are both fanatics, and I go with them every now and again, but they go a lot more than I do. That's just what I'll say.
I bet. Yeah, Florida. Yeah, I had an opportunity. I'm actually going to be in Orlando next week for a conference. There's the American Association of Kidney Patients is located in Tampa, Florida, but they're having their national patient meeting, their annual one they have every year in Orlando next week at the Rosen, I think, hotel.
Yeah, the Rosen Hotel. Yeah, there's a couple of Rosen hotels.
I'm staying, I guess, I don't know which one I'm staying at, but I'm staying at the Rosen next week on Wednesday to Saturday to be part of that program and just kind of observe, talk to different patients, do some just kind of networking and meet other patients, things of that nature. So,
well, while you're doing your networking, feel free to pass my number along to anyone. Because like I said,
of course,
I would like this podcast, to go on and on and on. And I'm finding, there's only so many people I know, but the longer it goes on, the harder it seems to get, to find, stories and people willing, wanting to talk about it. So if you're bored and you're meeting people, say, well, I got this guy here. Here's a number.
I will, of course. Sure. No problem.
Anything we haven't really talked about, Alex, that you would like to,
no, this has been wonderful. I've appreciated it. This has been great.
Well, I tell you what, like I said, though, you've already got the donor, but, we hope. I mean, it's not as easy as it sounds there, folks, if you're not familiar with transplants. Someone has donated in his name, which means there's a kidney available, but it's got to be the right kidney. It's got to have all the
right things. Yes, sir.
And the antibodies is like, going against an ace pitcher that just keeps throwing you curveballs, and it's like, no, don't do that again. Exactly.
Yes, sir.
Well, Alex, I'm going to wish you the very best of luck, and people out there, if you're a religious person and believe in prayer, or you just want to send good thoughts, send some good thoughts and prayers to my friend Alex, that hopefully he can get a kidney here soon.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate that.
Thanks so much, Alex, for sharing your journey with us today on Gift of Life, the Organ Transplant Podcast. If you have a transplant story you'd like to share, reach out to us, giftoflifepodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook, Gift of Life, the Organ Transplant Podcast. Until next time, I'm BJ Odom, thanking you for being a part of our journey and reminding us all to appreciate each and every day and to cherish the extraordinary gift of life.